All right, everyone. Hello, we are live. Welcome to Changing the Game. My name is Jordan Duren. I'm a career coach at Shift Group, where we help athletes and veterans transition into their next sales role. With only 30% of all sales roles being held by women, Changing the Game aims to highlight female sales leaders who are making an impact in the industry. Today, I'm joined by Abby Emerson. Abby is the founder and CEO of K12 Sports Tech and athletic director advocate. She's also a former Division I lacrosse player at the University of Notre Dame. Welcome, Abby.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
I'm excited to have you today. Abby and I connected a couple of weeks ago. We had a great conversation, so I'm so excited for her to share her knowledge and experience with everyone tuning in, whether it's live or on the recording. So Abby, I would love for you to kick it off for the viewers. Are you able to provide just a brief overview of your current role?
Founded K12 Sports Tech about a year and a half ago after being on the tech side of athletics management tech software for, 10 years with 8-18, which is now part of Snap Mobile. Just in my work for 8-18, saw that there was a disconnect between sports tech vendors and athletic directors. Both weren't really getting what they needed from the other. And in the school athletics tech space, it's very different than other industries. There isn't the same review process, and it's a lot harder for administrators to properly vet vendors. And then it's harder for vendors to get into schools, to break into schools, even if they have really amazing tech and tools. It can be difficult, and sometimes they can throw up their hands and say it's not worth getting into the schools, which is a shame because a lot of them have really exciting technology to provide. So K12 Sports Tech was founded to bridge that gap, to help bring athletic administrators back into the conversation, help them shape innovation, share their voice, and help sports tech vendors, pave a path for them to drive an impact for student athletes across the country. So and then I brought on a partner, Alec Brown, last year, and he was a former AD and has been a great addition to K12. And then we've brought on a lot of athletic directors as AD think tank members to help us with consulting work with sports tech vendors. So we're at about 150 athletic directors nationwide. We're in about half the states, and there's just a really exciting energy and enthusiasm from these administrators about being part of improving tech for athletic departments.
Yeah, so that AD think tank, that is just the opportunity for you to connect with athletic directors around the country then to kind of get their input and hear their feedback on some of these technologies that they're using.
Yeah, so it's an opportunity, it's paid. In my tenure working on the software side with athletic directors, they're actually extremely generous with their feedback and their direction, and conversations with them about your tech is incredibly valuable, but not a lot of companies do that or put a lot of resources into getting that feedback and then helping that shape the trajectory or the direction. So our concept was, hey, let's give these athletic administrators another professional opportunity. Let's compensate them for their time. And what's happened is that both sports tech vendors and the AD think tank members are really, they take it extremely seriously. There's a sense of accountability for the athletic directors who, they're so disciplined as it is. They have so much on their plate, but this was sort of a fun, different pursuit and opportunity for them. And the sports tech vendors get this incredible insight. And there's a growth component to everything we do with our sports tech vendors. So at the same time, we're also showing some of these opportunities, some of these solutions to the athletic directors that they had no idea was even out there, and could really make an impact on their program. So that's sort of the overview of the program. But it's been going great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. That's cool how it's very much mutually beneficial to not only the athletic directors, but the vendors as well. That's awesome.
Yeah. That was one of the fun things about founding the K12. I'm like, I just want to help everyone. There's problems to be solved, and if I can get in the middle and help mediate, bridge the gap, and so everyone benefits, that's what I want to do for my living.
Yeah. That is awesome. You touched a little bit on your journey from 8 to 18 to K12. I'd love if you could go back a little bit further for the audience and just share a little bit more about your background, whether that's, starting in your athletic career all the way up to that role at 8 to 18.
Yes. Well, growing up, loved sports. Was an avid sports fan and 3-sport athlete in high school: soccer, basketball, lacrosse. Played lacrosse at Notre Dame. Lacrosse is my 5th favorite sport, though. I like the other ones, but I just happened to be better at lacrosse, and it gave me an opportunity to go to Notre Dame. So that's what I pursued. But it was an amazing experience, and learned a lot, made incredible connections with my teammates and others. We had a really great run my senior year. We were number 2 in the nation for a while. We shook things up, and beyond that, I worked for the New York City Olympic bid in domestic communications. I'm from New York originally, and that sort of started I got my hand in sports professionally in some capacity, and worked for Ketchum Sports Networking Group in PR for a little bit. 180 degrees, teacher and coach for 3 years. Really did not like working at Ketchum in public relations, and we'll get into that because it's directly related to my interest in sales. PR was not for me. But the teacher and coach piece was so fun, so personally rewarding. Professionally, not as rewarding. It did not satisfy a drive and a competitive, the competitive side in me that had been fostered over years of playing sports and competing. So moved to Chicago without a job, from New York without a job. 3 days after I got married, I went into commercial real estate because that's what you do in a brand new city, to go into sales in commercial real estate. But great learning experience. Ended up getting starting copywriting and marketing, doing some freelance after having my first daughter of 3. And then I was recruited to come over to 8 to 18, and 8 to 18 allowed me to sort of be an entrepreneur and sales person within a startup. So a ton of autonomy. It just allowed me to make a really big impact really quickly. And I found that was what I needed professionally. I needed to be able to make an impact on the success and the growth of the company I was working for. And I also had to be able to make my own decisions and to reap what I sow. Those were 2 key discoveries. And I found that at 8 to 18. And, but then eventually used a lot of what I learned there to found K12.
Yeah. Abby, I love your story because there's lots of pivots in there. You said there's lots of 180s, and I just think it's almost encouraging to other professionals out there who are maybe not in the career that they think is like maybe the one. I think there's a lot of pressure as we're growing up or in college, just to have it figured out, like, hey, this is my passion. This is exactly what I'm going to do. And
100%.
as I've grown, I found that that's actually not the norm. I thought there was something wrong with me growing up because I thought, I don't know what I want to do yet. Everyone else needs to have it figured out. And now I'm kind of learning, like, no, we don't have it figured out.
Yeah, 100%. That is something I try to impart on anyone who is even the least bit interested in listening, and younger people entering the workforce, or just like on their way to college and thinking that they have to have it all figured out. I was a graphic design major, like probably a mistake. I like totally random, but I liked design and art. I have a creative side, and design was sort of like creative problem solving, but visually.
Yeah.
But probably wasn't the best major for me, but you make it work. You use the tools, you use your experience and what you learn over time, and you just translate that into success in your pursuits. So, I would say I was definitely frustrated by, like, when I graduated, and there were these expectations like, oh, you went to Notre Dame, so like you're gonna land this perfect job and have this career track and experience incredible success, and no, it's not, it's not that clear cut, especially with the traditional career tracks. There's so many different jobs out there and so many different companies, especially in the tech space, that it's impossible to have it planned out, because the best opportunity in the world may be something that you never even considered when you were thinking about what you want to do with your life. So you just kind of follow your passions, what things that you're good at, make connections, and just try new things and learn and grow. And it will be okay. You don't have to have a perfect plan, because most of the time it's not going to end up that way anyway.
Right. Yeah. So it's just like, try new things, and that's the only way to check it off the list, or to learn more things that, like you said, your graphic design major. First of all, I didn't know that. That's a really cool parallel though, from graphic design major, you're solving problems visually. That makes sense. Like, if you enjoyed solving problems there, maybe you'd enjoy the problem solving in another industry or sales. And there's just so many skills you can learn from one industry to transfer to the next.
Totally. So, I mean, in my first year at 8 to 18, my main role was to sell additional apparel solutions into the schools that we already had, and I was like, okay, so where are the marketing materials? Where do we? And they're like, we have zero. We don't even have a website for our company. So it's like, okay. So I just created, used my graphic design stuff and writing skills, and created marketing materials and a sales process for myself, and like put PowerPoints together and put some, cobbled some things together and just made it work, and then there's the teaching and the coaching experience. It allows me to connect, to really have empathy and understanding of the administrators and coaches that we work with, and to understand the school space. So you just don't know how, your experience is going to be beneficial, or how you can apply it later on. And sometimes you find opportunities that intentionally make use of your experience, and it ends up being really valuable. So you just don't know.
Absolutely. And when you were at 8 to 18, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably didn't start your role at 8 to 18 thinking, hey, I'm going to take what I learned here and found my own company.
Right.
You saw the gap. You saw the gap. Right. I'm curious, was there a moment when you were at 8 to 18 when you thought, hey, I see this gap, there's opportunity here, I'm going to do this? Or what kind of gave you that courage?
Yeah. Well, in my work with athletic administrators, and when I really started taking on the strategic partnership role, working with other vendors and trying to create solutions and sort of running up against the wall in some cases, and because there weren't a lot of resources that either one of us had to like put into this collaboration to help athletic directors, or there just wasn't interest in making it work. And so there's all this potential, and that's what drove me crazy all the time. Like there's so much potential here to make things easier and better for athletic departments. And we can't do it in a vacuum. And there didn't seem to be interest in some of the partners of doing it. So I would say, yeah, when I started working with sports tech vendors more and trying to collaborate to find joint solutions and working together, that was when it first sort of came to me like that there's opportunity here. We could be doing things a little bit better. But I would say that probably the biggest driver that made me think really seriously about it and start writing down ideas was with COVID. And, really it was me and Kim Johnson, who when AT&T was acquired, she went over to Snap Mobile, so she's still there, and amazing colleague and dear friend. She and I worked hand in hand, sort of keeping things going and growing at AT&T. And when COVID hit, like summer camp registrations were a huge source of revenue the main source of revenue for AT&T. And those all disappeared. So I started thinking, okay, we still have a lot of value. We have a ton of experience and knowledge of the industry. We have a genuine interest in helping athletic directors. So, how can we help them without forcing them to use our technology? And so that's really what started. I said, there's consulting, there's, ways that we can educate and inform and connect them to what they need. So maybe that's a pivot for AT&T. And I started writing all this stuff down, and we didn't end up, we ended up weathering the storm. But that always stuck with me. Like there's an opportunity, there's a huge problem here, and there's a way to help. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that is such a cool journey. Do you have any advice for anyone considering they maybe they're in the role right now, they see the gap, they want to start their own company, or they just have always felt they were entrepreneurial minded? What do you have any advice that you would give anyone who feels that way?
I think this goes to women in particular. It took me a very long time to really have the confidence to really understand my value, my worth, and take risks for myself, and put myself out there. And I had lots of ideas over the years, and COVID was a little while ago, but it took me a long time to have the courage, like you said, to start this. And I think it's, pay attention to those nagging ideas that keep cropping up, and you keep building on them in your head. Start to write them down. And I wish I knew about the resources that are available for entrepreneurs that have these visions and these ideas. So I would, I wish I had kind of jumped in sooner, to be honest, because honestly, people were losing their minds during COVID, and like people needed help the most during that time. And that would have been a great time to start. And everything happens for it. Like I'm a believer, and I'm my faith has led me to know that this is the way it was meant to be. But I do think for women out there, and really anyone with those ideas and those nagging feelings, like, and that itch, to first just get it down, just start writing it down, and then pay attention to opportunity. It could be someone mentioning that they know someone in legal that is working with startups, and or they know this person who did that. Like, just start to listen and to pay attention with the day to day, because it might be leading you down that path.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
One thing that a lot of us tend to struggle with in those moments too is I hear it from a lot of people. I hear it from myself, but sometimes when you're thinking of starting something big or taking that risk, like that fear, that's like, what if I can't do it? It's a little bit of like that imposter syndrome. But I think it's like, I don't know if it's like that biological fear where it's like supposed to protect us, but it's really not doing any good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
it's there, and it's it takes forever to shake, and you don't ever really shake it, because like with anything new, there's an element of like faking it till you make it. Like, you're trying something, you're not an expert, but you want to be, and you want to pursue something. You have a gut feeling, I mean, you have a hypothesis, and that's it. And so you're sort of selling yourself and others on the hypothesis as you go, and you just have to give yourself a chance, and give your idea a fair shake. But
yeah,
it can be much easier said than done, for sure.
I feel like, yeah, like that fear is it's a sign that you're on the verge of something good or big.
Yeah, definitely. And I think research and testing and conversations and relationship building, like, those are all things that are going to help you, and that help you grow anyway. So on the side of what you're doing, but in addition to what you're doing, maybe your day-to-day, your full-time gig, like, just be a little bit extra proactive with some of the things that could help both your professional career that you have right now, but also be just some learning and education about, what could be if if or when you want to take that risk.
Yeah.
A lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs build the foundation of their company when they're, on top of their full-time job. Like, it's hard. It's really, really hard. And you have to have a support system. And my husband is incredibly supportive, and it's our 3 kids. Like, it's really, really hard. So you have to have a support system to help. Absolutely. Emotionally and financially. And, so there's a lot of things, but you work hard to put yourself in that position where you can take risks, but that aren't like do or die.
Yeah. As the leader of your company now, I'm curious to know too, are there any lessons or influence from your athletic background or even from past roles that have really influenced your approach to leadership?
Yeah, I mean, I like, leading by example is always the best, and kindness, empathy, like understanding, listening. Those are things that serve you well in sports as well as professionally, and just in general and in life. But in sales in particular, and leadership, garnering trust, like you are your brand. And so if you're out there and you're genuine and an open book, a lot of people in the startup world, it's very competitive. It's very, and the tech space too, like people keep things very close to the vest. And I'll have a conversation with someone and they just really don't want to give like more than they have to keep the conversation going. And I'm just like, just like, I'm not, just like, hey, like, this is me. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And, transparency is, and being vulnerable, is one of those things that it's not common, but it really breaks down barriers and helps you be productive and honestly more efficient and allows you to grow more quickly because there's trust and there's a, I don't know, mutual understanding. So that's a really, really windy way of saying, yeah, there are some things from my athletic background that have really helped. I would say scrappiness is probably the number one sort of clear trait that I built in years of playing sports. I just, like, quick example, I went to some small schools in New York, was not the lacrosse powerhouse area that many of my teammates were from. And so my stick skills were not the best. And my cradling was really weird. And I could barely catch with my left hand. But I used my God-given gifts and like athleticism, speed, quickness, and just scrappiness to get a role to start on defense, and then worked my way to midfield and offense, and just believed in myself, and there's always a solution to every problem. Like you can, just start with the confidence that you can figure it out.
Yes.
That's like my default approach with problem solving. It's okay, here's a problem, right? What's the solution? And let's figure it out, because you can.
There's, you look at athletes or you look at people out in the business world or professional world, and it's like, they may be really athletically blessed and gifted, but a lot of us have had to work really hard. Like you said, like, hey, maybe you weren't the most skilled player out there, but you worked your ass off. You were scrappy and you worked to improve those skills that you needed to get you where you wanted to go. And I think there's a lot of lessons there that can be taken not only from athletics, but into the professional world as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can do, like, it sounds so cheesy and like whatever, but it's true. Like, you just need to believe that you can do it, and you can figure it out. And that goes from like the tiniest, smallest, silliest problem to like big time problems that you can solve. But you have to have that confidence. And that's something that sports has really helped shape in me and instill in me, is that confidence that, you can figure it out and you can do it. And so, and there's lots of other, activities and pursuits that help with that as well. But you just have to be willing to fail, and you have to be willing to try and to learn and to grow. But
yeah, it's figure outable. Yeah, I believe it. Abby, I could ask you a million more questions. I could probably talk for another half hour, but we're almost at our 30 minutes. So I just have one last question for you. I would just like to know, what advice would you offer to women in particular? I know you touched on this a little bit already, or just anyone really who is considering a career in sales.
Yeah. The confidence thing. I mean, that's huge. Standing your ground, being firm, but also, and knowing your worth. But I would say, be willing to work hard. I think there's a fine line between knowing your worth and demanding, respect in the eyes of people that you haven't earned. So you have to work hard, and also know your worth at the same time. So there's a humility that you have to kind of take in with, when you get into sales, and you got to roll with the punches for sure. You're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of, worse than no's, like people slamming doors in your face and making you feel like garbage.
We've all been.
And you got to celebrate the wins, and I would say, just treat people the way that you want to be treated. Love your neighbors, right? And that serves you well. And be an open book. Sales gets a bad rep in general, and there's a fear of getting into it because you worry that it's not gonna allow you to be genuine. Right. But mention some of the gaps or the issues that your solution doesn't solve. It's fine. Just be honest and transparent, because at the end of the day, it's about relationships versus like the features and functions of what I'm selling. I think that serve you well. Just work hard, know your worth, and treat people like you want to be treated. Open book.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abby. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom and your experience. Thank you for sharing that with everyone. Can I encourage anyone listening to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Oh, please. Happy to talk to anyone. And I am, and it feels very strange to be giving all this advice. I am like always seeking wisdom from others as well. I am not like a wise sage. I have experience, but I love connecting with people because I can learn from them, and everyone has different things to offer, and pieces of advice and experience that can help. So we can all help each other.
I love it. Thank you. I'm a strong believer in that as well. So thank you so much for your time, Abby. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jordan. It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.